AGI. These three letters invoke different feelings for different people. To some, they summon the space-age future they've always dreamed of, complete with flying cars and holograms. To others, they usher in blood-curdling visions, the collapse of society, existential apocalypse, and inescapable torment. For some, they represent money, abundance, and fortune. To others, domination. Many fear these three letters will leave them jobless, unable to put food on the table for their loved ones. Still others believe they are an illusion, an impossibility, something that is never going to happen. Today we are talking about artificial general intelligence, the term coined by the scientific community to describe something simple in principle but complex in practice. Man-made machines that are more intelligent than the very minds that built them. Okay, I know what some of you are thinking. This AI thing is all hype. I've played around with LLMs, and they're little more than a big encyclopedia that can do some maths and write university students' exam papers for them. Well, not so fast. Leading AI scientists have come up with a rubric to measure and evaluate AGI, based on the leading theory for holistically measuring human intelligence. It considers a wide spectrum of different aspects of human intelligence, including everyday things you might not even think about, like being able to speak naturally and spot objects. The rubric contains 10 criteria: general knowledge, reading and writing, maths, on-the-spot reasoning, working memory, long-term memory storage, long-term memory retrieval, visual processing, auditory processing, and speed. Its authors have designed the system so that a 10 in each category corresponds to a well-educated adult. So this is what an AGI intelligence looks like when plotted on the spider chart. Notice that it scores a 10 in each category. Alright then, let's put it to the test. Let's try someone who never had the chance to attend primary school. Next, someone who is able to complete only primary school. Note that we have applied the author's rubric to each of these examples to obtain the plots you see. Now let's try Mozart. Hang on, are you telling me that Mozart, one of the greatest composers to have ever lived, does not score a 10 in each category? How can that be possible? Isn't AGI supposed to represent the intelligence level of a human? How about Beethoven? Albert Einstein? What? Even Einstein can't meet the AGI level set out by the experts? Let's look into this and find out why. Consider one of the criteria we mentioned earlier, long-term memory storage. One of its sub-criteria is short sequence recall, and the examples given for this test are as follows. You are presented with a fictional quote, a phone number, a limerick, and a mathematical proof. After 48 hours, you are asked to recall these. I'm not sure about you, but this sounds very difficult, and Einstein famously didn't remember his own phone number, let alone a random number, so we can assume he might not do so well on it. Take another example, knowledge. This criterion has a sub-criterion of chemistry. The test in this case is the US-Canadian Advanced Placement Chemistry Test, an exam that top high school students typically sit to skip some first-year university courses. To pass the chemistry sub-criterion, one must pass this AP exam with an A or A+. Even an A- is not enough. A surviving high school report card for Einstein lists a mark of 2 or 3 out of 6 for chemistry. This equates to a B or C, not an A. So according to the rubric, high school Einstein would have failed the sub-criterion. At this point, we can conclude that the author's claim that their benchmark represents a well-educated adult is incorrect. It clearly represents a much higher level than this. In fact, let's plot an average, well-educated adult on the map. We see that the requirements to pass the author's AGI test exceed those of a well-educated adult. In fact, this benchmark represents an almost superhuman level of intelligence, something like a student who receives only A's or A+ in every single subject. We also note that to pass many of the tests involved in this system, a human would need to study very diligently. But let's not forget that, within a year or so, they would already forget most of the information and fail the tests. Compare this with AI, which does not need to prepare for exams and does not forget. Okay, let's move on and see how some artificial brains do. ChatGPT-4, an AI released by OpenAI in 2023, and its big brother ChatGPT-5, released in 2025. Whoa, did it actually make that much progress in just 2 years? If ChatGPT has gone from this to this, imagine where it is going to get to in the next 2 years. Immediately, we can see that AI's intelligence is scarily close to humans, and even surpasses us in many areas. We all know that AIs are blisteringly fast. So, like me, you might be surprised to see that ChatGPT receives a low score for the speed aspect of the rubric when compared to humans. When we dive deeper into the speed criteria, we find several sub-criteria. Each of these sub-criteria make up 10% of the speed criteria. Take simple reaction time. An example question that the authors use to test this is, after reading this, immediately output the letter A. We can see that an AI might take much longer than a human to do this, since each sub-criteria is evaluated as pass or fail. So for this sub-criteria, the AI is awarded 0 out of 10. So AI can produce pages of written content in seconds that would take a human several hours to produce, but is slightly slower to hit the A key, and thus overall is awarded a lower speed score than a human. When the authors say speed, they really mean speed in the exact same way a human is fast. So an AI can be far faster than a human in practice, yet still not achieve a 10 due to some technicalities. This means that an AI might not meet all the criteria currently set out, and thus technically not yet qualify for AGI, yet for practical purposes be far more capable than humans. So, is AGI already here? I think most people will agree that a sensible definition for AGI would be something like intelligence equal to, or greater than, an average, well-educated adult. We can see that, even with a rubric that gives advantage to human intelligence and downplays machine intelligence, when we evaluate the most advanced AI, they are comparable to an average, well-educated adult. So is AGI here? It depends how you define it, but with a sensible definition, the answer is probably. And if it's not here, it's very close. Practically speaking, it might not really matter how people want to define or measure AGI. The real point at which we'll understand that AGI is here is when reality hits and it takes our jobs. Technology taking jobs is nothing new. Machines have been replacing humans for most of modern history. However, this time there is a catch. In the past, when machines took some jobs, other, normally better jobs were created. For example, the tractor replaced manual farmers, but those tractors needed drivers, mechanics, and engineers. But this time, when AGI takes your job, it will take the other jobs too. If it makes you feel any better, AI CEOs are building underground bunkers. Are you ready for AGI? Haha, good luck.